What's going on, everyone? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with another edition of The One-Off. This is kind of an impromptu video. For those of you who were with me this past Monday for my live stream during Raw, I mentioned that this week's episode would be a live stream this coming Saturday, and I still plan to do that. I'll be up here live on YouTube around 6 p.m. Eastern Time for episode 534 or whatever it is, and we'll discuss in detail the entire WrestleMania card, all of the angles, all of the storylines, what we saw this past week on Raw and SmackDown Live, and we'll probably do a little bit of predicting and speculating on WrestleMania as well. But in light of the huge blockbuster news we got on SmackDown Live this week, I decided I had to come up here and at least talk about this situation. And if you are living under a rock and you're just now crawling out of that rock and clicking on my video, I've got some news for you. Charlotte is your new SmackDown Women's Champion. What? I am about as shocked as everybody else in the wrestling world. I have to work, as always, on Tuesday nights, and I was actually watching this match in my car while I was driving to work, and I noticed that it's a title match, and immediately a bell went off, and I'm like, why would they even do this match if they weren't going to swap the belt here? And none of us saw this coming. I thought Asuka was going to go on to WrestleMania to face the winner of the four-way and just kind of have like an undercard successful title defense. I didn't think Asuka was going to be dropping that belt to anybody like Mandy Rose or anyone else right now, because the Raw title is the center of attention right now, and it was just announced officially on social media a couple of days ago that the Women's Championship match, Triple Threat, Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda, will in fact main event WrestleMania. That match will officially go on last. So that right there was huge news. Now you fast forward to Tuesday night on SmackDown, you have a match between Charlotte and Asuka that I didn't even know was advertised. I was busy all day Tuesday. I didn't even look at the SmackDown preview. I had no idea that these two ladies were going to be wrestling, much less wrestling for the SmackDown Women's title. And Charlotte defeated Asuka, tapped her out with the figure eight clean right in the middle of the ring. And as I expected, the wrestling fans handled this extremely well, didn't they? Like always, anytime somebody that the fans hate wins a match, it is Category 5 freakout time on social media. Oh my God. I made the decision right away that when I got home, I was going to come up here and do a quick one-off because I have a few opinions on this, and I believe that there are pros and cons to this situation. And also, one of the things I want to say right up front here before you listen to what I'm going to say in this video is that I am by no means trying to tell you that you are not allowed to be upset about this. You absolutely are. You have every right in the world to be disappointed about this if you want. Just be mad about it. There's nothing wrong with being disappointed about Asuka not really having a WrestleMania direction. I have no problem with that at all. I'm not saying you're not allowed to do that. You can be mad or happy about anything you want. Just be consistent with your arguments, and if you're going to be mad that Charlotte wins too much, then you need to be mad at Stone Cold for winning too much too. And if you're going to be mad that Charlotte gets opportunities because of her dad, then you need to be mad that The Rock got opportunities because of his dad too. And most of all, don't tell me that I'm not allowed to be okay with it, because that's what I've been seeing. I just mentioned on Twitter that, hey, for me personally, I'm all right with this decision, and people freak out like I'm some Charlotte dick sucker. I understand that the WWE is a company full of morons, and they throw some of the most ridiculous shit at us day after endless day. This, for me personally, however, just isn't one of those situations. It might be one for you. You might be flying off the rails, but I am not. So what I'm trying to do in this video is explain, or at least analyze, the pros and the cons. You want to be pissed? Be pissed. But be pissed for the right reasons, not for bullshit reasons that you're making up to justify your hate, because that's what's happening. And when it comes to Asuka and what happened to her and all of the fans running to her defense, it's totally obvious, it's plain as day, right? When she lost to Charlotte, that meant that she was, say it together now, buried. Very good. Of course she was buried, because why wouldn't she be? Just like they thought she was buried after losing one match in 2.5 fucking years to Charlotte at WrestleMania last year. Now she goes into the ring, she loses a match to a person who is going to main event WrestleMania. She loses that match, and everybody thinks she's buried, that she can never recover from this, that WWE has screwed her over screwed her over because of nepotism. And Charlotte is untalented and she gets all of the opportunities because of who her dad is. The only reason Charlotte is any good is because her dad is Ric Flair. That is the opinion that is so frighteningly common on social media. By that logic, Seth Rollins should be challenging David Flair for the Universal title. There have been countless children of famous wrestlers, including Ric Flair, that have never amounted to jack shit in the wrestling business. Most of you, I'm sure, have only been watching wrestling for the past decade, maybe two, so there's lots of guys that you don't even know about, but there's one name I'm going to throw out there, and that's David Sammartino, the son of Bruno Sammartino. At the time, Bruno was John Cena, Roman Reigns, The Rock, Stone Cold, and Hulk Hogan all rolled into one. He was the man. And while his son did get a few opportunities, it became clear that David Sammartino did not have what it took. He was not his father, not even close. And he disappeared. We never saw him again. The WWE didn't push him just because. Believe it or not, in a lot of cases, you do actually have to work for your positions in WWE. They don't just put talentless bums out there just because their mom or dad used to wrestle. It doesn't fucking work that way. Do they get opportunities that other people might not? Yes, of course. Why wouldn't they? Bret Hart did. The Rock did. Cody Rhodes did. Dustin Rhodes did. Randy Orton did. Mr. Perfect did. Nick Bockwinkel did. In these fans' minds, Charlotte is the only second-generation wrestler we've ever seen. Of course you're going to get opportunities if your family is in the business. Look at the bloodline of those Samoans. The Rock and Nia Jax and Roman Reigns and the Wild Samoans and Rikishi. And this long-ass line of family that have all wrestled. That's just what you see in wrestling, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why the fans think that a second-generation wrestler is a bad thing. I don't understand for the life of me how fans think that if you grow up in the business and you are exposed to it from a very early age and you eat, sleep, and breathe it, that you're somehow a poison to the wrestling business. Get the fuck out of here. To actually believe that the only reason that Charlotte is an 8-time former women's champion is because her dad is Ric Flair is so gut-wrenchingly stupid. I mean, come on. The way the fans try to justify their hate for another wrestler is truly amusing. It's entertaining. The last thing in the world that these fans give a shit about is what's best for the professional wrestling business. The only thing they give a shit about is what's best for themselves and what makes them personally happy. And that's where I come in. And to those fans, I say you have every single right to be as pissed off as you want about this situation. Be pissed at Charlotte. Go right ahead. But don't go on social media and try to tell someone like me. I have got hairs growing on my ass that have watched wrestling longer than you. And you're going to try to educate me about proper booking? That's laughable. You ever laugh so hard that you fart and a little bit of shit comes out? Well, that's what happened to me when I'm reading this nonsense on social media. When it comes to a situation like this, there are good things and bad things about it. And I'm going to get into that. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I think WWE might have done this. But like I said, first, let's talk about those cons, okay? Let's just talk about the negative aspects of this decision, this crazy-ass decision that WWE made on Tuesday night. The first one, of course, is Asuka. Poor Asuka. We love Asuka. I was actually starting to hope that Asuka was back on the winning trail. Like I said earlier, she's in the middle of a SmackDown title run right now, but the Raw title is center stage. The Raw title is main eventing WrestleMania. So no matter what happens here, the SmackDown title feels less important. The SmackDown title feels insignificant compared to the Raw title because Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda are involved in this big triple threat. And you wonder, why is it not a fatal four-way? Why is Asuka not in this match? I'd be perfectly fine with adding Asuka to it and making it a fatal four-way. So right off the bat, my big concern is that WWE has 2 women's titles, and one of them is by default going to look like the lesser title, and it's also on the lesser of the 2 shows. SmackDown is the B show. We all know that. So I thought none of this was doing the title any favors. So in the meantime, I figured that Asuka could quietly go on a run while Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte do their thing. She can continue to retain the title and hold it into the summer, which will give her a pretty long title run since she won it all the way back in December. That's what I thought they would do. But I got to tell you, and you guys know this is true because I've mentioned it in several podcasts and live streams, that I have been concerned about how this makes the SmackDown Women's title look. And I will admit that if it was up to me and they wanted to have the SmackDown Women's title a part of the WrestleMania main event, I would have rather had Asuka get added to the match than Charlotte win the belt here. I will admit that. But I don't think that this is quite as bad as fans are making it out to be. We all feel bad for Asuka. We all love Asuka. And you got to remember, we still do have one more week of TV. You know, maybe there's a rematch next week on SmackDown. Becky Lynch hits the ring and screws Charlotte over and Asuka wins the belt back. I don't think it's likely. I think if WWE put the belt on Charlotte here, it was for a reason. So for them to yank it off of her 6 days later, I doubt it. But it could happen. Maybe there's still time to add Asuka to the match as well. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe it could. So we still have one more week. So that's probably the biggest con of this whole thing, is that we all love Asuka, myself included, and we feel bad that she's no longer the champion. But she's not buried. Why is every loss by the fans considered a burial? Why is it that Steve Austin and The Rock never buried anyone, but Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Charlotte do? Answer me that. I can answer it for you. Because you like Austin and Rock, and you don't like those other people. That's why you consider it a burial. That's why you don't know the fucking definition of the word, and that's why you use it as your default argument every fucking time Charlotte wins a match. And WWE, if they are going to showcase their women in the main event for the first time ever, they might want both of the women's titles to be a part of that. That way you're not diminishing one. And that's been one of my complaints for months about this whole situation, is that the only complaint I have about this women's triple threat at WrestleMania is that it features the Raw title and not the SmackDown title. And we even speculated over the past few months that maybe they could do a unification. Now, we had a lot of different ways of them getting to that unification match. Not exactly the way we saw it go down on SmackDown Live, but we all did have some ideas about how they could potentially do a unification match. Now, I have not seen any news about this becoming a unification match. I don't know if it will be or not. SmackDown is heading to Fox in just a few months. We've heard rumors that the Fox network doesn't really want much of a brand split anymore, and they want big stars on that show. So if they combine the belts and do one women's title, I'm actually fine with that. I never thought the roster was really deep enough for two belts anyway. So if they do wind up unifying the belts at WrestleMania, great. But again, that kind of does leave Asuka out, and that's a shame, but sometimes that's a sacrifice you have to make. WWE has really taken a lot of twists and turns in the Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte storyline. Some of it has not been for the better. I thought they were over-engineering the shit out of this angle when they really didn't have to. You know, suspending Becky, unsuspending her, suspending her again. Then she's got the bad leg. Then she's hobbling out there with crutches like Tiny Tim. None of that shit was even necessary. You had such a perfect, easy story sitting right there in the palm of your hands, and you fucked it all up. Or you made it convoluted to where it was annoying the fans a little bit, and now you're going to throw this fucking wrench into the plans? Oh my God. But again, I'm trying to look at why WWE did this. In the fans' eyes, WWE did this purely to screw over Asuka and to give another belt to their golden woman. That's what the fans think. That's what ricochets inside of their empty fucking brainless heads. The WWE is purposely, just for shits and gigs, they want to fuck with Asuka and troll her. And they want to give even more to their golden child, to their poster girl. She's not going to get the moment at WrestleMania. Becky is. So for them to now slap the SmackDown title on her, here's why I think that is good. Number one is that elevates the belt itself. Again, I'm not saying this is the only way to elevate the belt. I'm just saying it definitely does. If it was up to me, I would have gone with the plans that I wanted a few months ago, or at the beginning of the year that I talked about in my podcasts. And that is Becky versus Ronda, and you do Charlotte and Asuka too at WrestleMania. Now you got two huge women's matches, both for championship belts. You know, if one of them is the main event, then it's still going to feel more meaningful than the other one, but at least you have two solid one-on-one female matches that are going to be very good. We know that. So if it was up to me, that's the way I would have kept the SmackDown title relevant. But now with WWE doing this, I'm sorry. I know it's unpopular, but I would just much rather see the SmackDown title in this main event situation than around Asuka's waist when she taps out Mandy Rose in the second match of WrestleMania. You know, I think this would be much better for the title itself, and I think it's going to make it mean more, especially if they don't unify the titles. That means if Becky wins, Charlotte is still the SmackDown champion. Is that how this works? I'm currently looking at WWE.com right now, and it does not say anything about any sort of title unification match. So if they are going to make some sort of a decision like this, we might get an announcement on social media on Wednesday or Thursday, or maybe this coming Monday on Monday Night Raw. But regardless of whether or not it's a unification match or not, what I think the point here was to put the SmackDown title in this main event match. And I think that's a better place for the title to be. I would love for Asuka to be in there. Trust me, I would. And I'm with you 100% on that. But the fact that she's not doesn't make me think that WWE has made the worst decision of all time. I'm at least willing to be patient enough to see what their plans are. What is their motivation? Why did they do this? And it may lead to a unification, or it might lead to a unification down the road. Here's another scenario for you. What if we go into the triple threat at WrestleMania, Becky wins as expected, Ronda goes and takes time off or something, and then you've got Becky and Charlotte, both champions again, and then you unify the belts at another pay-per-view. Maybe you unify them at Backlash, or unify them at Money in the Bank, or something like that. Becky versus Charlotte. And if that's the case, then I say throw Asuka into the mix. You know, that might be a good match for Backlash. If that is the pay-per-view after WrestleMania, I don't even know. So if they did that at Backlash, that might be fun. Having a triple threat main event WrestleMania, Charlotte, Ronda, Becky, and then have another triple threat main event Backlash, Asuka, Charlotte, Becky. So really, at the end of the day, all this tells me is that WWE wanted the SmackDown title in the main event of WrestleMania. I think immediately back to WrestleMania 30, when Daniel Bryan won the title, and he had the two belts, and he's celebrating with both of them, and the confetti is coming down. We might see Becky do that. You know, Becky might be holding up the red and the blue title to close out WrestleMania Daniel Bryan style. If that's the case, and it turns out to be a unification, is that really the end of the world? You know, that's what we wanted for Becky anyway. So I understand that it's a little bit disappointing for Asuka, especially those of us who are fans of Asuka. But I'm certainly not willing to believe that because she lost the belt to an 8-time former champion means that she should just quit WWE. That's another tweet I was getting. Asuka should just quit and leave because she's not treated good enough. Are you kidding me? Ask Asuka's bank account how well she's being treated. I'm sure you're going to get no complaints out of that checkbook. This is another perfect example of whenever WWE makes a controversial decision, the fans truly show their immaturity, their ignorance, and their inability to deal with anything. If they are personally inconvenienced in any way, their world ends, and it becomes open season on everybody, acting like a dick to anybody that'll give you the fucking time of day, all to express your anger about a fucking pro wrestling match that at the end of the day doesn't mean anything. And again, stop typing. If it was up to me, I would have added Asuka to the match. That's how I would have added the SmackDown title to the match. I would have just made it a fatal four-way. WWE didn't do that. They switched the belt to keep it a triple threat, and we can debate if that was the right or wrong decision, but you can't decide if it was the right or wrong decision 3 hours after it happened. You have to wait and see where it goes. When it comes to stuff like this, you at least have to give it a chance to see what the intention here is. This might be a part of something much bigger that we can't see yet because it's beyond our realm. It's weeks out. WWE knows what they're going to do. WWE knows what their plan is, and this was just the beginning of it. We don't know yet. So if it turns out that this was done in order to make the SmackDown title as relevant as the Raw title, I see very few issues with that. You know, there's a couple. It's not perfect, and it's still going to piss some people off. But to act like it's the worst thing in the world, to act like it's the dumbest booking decision in the world, please. I, for one, am willing to see this through because now I'm intrigued. Now I'm even more interested in this main event because I think all of us could really probably agree on this, is that as cool as the Becky Lynch rise to prominence has been, and as fun as it has been to watch her get so popular over the last 6 to 8 months, I still feel like, because of WWE's booking of this angle, that it's not, it doesn't have my attention quite as much as the Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston feud. I actually think that is the most interesting thing on WWE TV right now, so maybe WWE felt that way as well. They've already announced that the women are going to main event. They want them to have the hottest storyline. They want them to have the hottest angle, and they want the fans to really question what they are going to see at WrestleMania. I'm curious as hell now. I think this adds a whole new dynamic to the match. I think it makes things a lot more interesting. It may have sacrificed Asuka to a degree, but you know what? That's fucking business. And it's what's been happening in the professional wrestling business way before your parents were even born. There may be a bigger picture at play here that we don't see. There may not. But after WrestleMania, after Becky gets her moment, who knows what the future holds for Asuka? They could do what they did with her last year and have her lose to Carmella again, or she could wind up winning that belt back. She definitely needs to beat Charlotte at some point. She owns a clean victory over Becky at the Royal Rumble. Would love to see Asuka defeat Charlotte at some point, and if she does, then everything's fine in my book. So basically, my bottom line here is that while I am every bit as shocked as you guys are about WWE's crazy-ass decision that they made on Tuesday night putting the belt on Charlotte Flair, I in no way think that the wrestling business is going to die. I am not going to cancel my WWE network. I'm not going to stick a hot knife up my ass. I think the fans that complain to this degree think they know a hell of a lot more than they really know. And they can look to countless examples from the past of the same type of shit happening, but as long as it happens to somebody that they like, all is well. But when it comes to somebody they don't, and that person wins a match, may God have mercy on our souls, because there is no way, there is no shield strong enough to deflect one inaccurate, laughable, ridiculous argument after another. I've heard it all tonight, just in a short amount of time, on Twitter. Somebody told me that Charlotte was 110%, not 100%, 110% untalented. That is the ridiculousness that exists out there in social media. What kind of lives do these people have to be that jaw-droppingly uninformed, to think shit like that? And I know why. It's just out of anger. Everybody knows how you get when you're mad. When you're really angry, you say shit that doesn't make sense. And that's what happens on Twitter every fucking day. And I'm sure that's what's going on in the comments right now. And one of the comments I'm sure that is going to be written down there is, "Oh, GoodMicWork, you're just a WWE apologist, and how can you be okay with this?" Well, I just told you why. And I'm not even really saying that I'm completely okay with it. What I'm saying is that I'm willing to see what WWE's intention here is. Why did they do this? There has to be a reason other than just fucking over Asuka. No, there's a bigger picture at play here, and I think they want both women's titles, since it is the first ever female main event. They want both of those titles featured in the spotlight, main event, and if we have to sacrifice Asuka to make that happen, then so fucking be it. You're gonna have to get over it. So you guys take care. Catch you in a couple of days. Have fun typing in the comments below. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.